Okay guys, so in this video we're going to talk about Apple stock. So Apple just recently held an event a day ago or two called One More Thing, and probably the biggest announcements, obviously they talked about quite a few things. So let's just talk about that right now so I can get that out of the way, and then I want to go more into the analysis. But before I get into this video guys, please smash the like button. It really helps my channel out, and be sure to subscribe for more updates on Apple stocks. Let's get right into it guys. So if you guys want to, you guys can head over to just type into YouTube Apple's One More Thing. You guys can check out the full event, but basically I want to give you guys a quick rundown if by chance you didn't really get a chance to watch it. So as you can see here, the Apple announced new versions of the MacBook Air, the 13-inch MacBook Pro, and the Mac Mini, but probably the most interesting announcement was the M1 chip. So obviously guys, this is not a channel on computer hardware. This is a stock market investing and just a general finance channel. But I want to say about this is that obviously this is like the most powerful Apple chip ever, and we all know how important hardware is for computers. One of the reasons why people liked Apple's products so much is that I think it's because it just looked different, and they were kind of the trendsetter, and that Apple was different from Windows. It was different from Android, and people really appreciate something that's different and very powerful, and Apple products are really second to none. Personally, using Apple computer, I've used HP computers, Apple computers, Dell's, and by far my favorite computer had been the Apple computer. So the fact that Apple is now kind of breaking ties with Intel and producing their own chips in-house, not only is this going to make the computer better, but this is going to improve Apple's margins. So they're no longer having to pay Intel for those chips. They're developing the chips in-house, so that's going to help improve their margins. So that's really good sign long term for the company. And this kind of says that Apple has basically entered a new era. So they have their own chips now. They're probably obviously a lot of the products are produced in China, but I think that's the next step, and I would like to see Apple eventually take more and more steps to vertically integrate almost everything in their company, because that'll really just help margins and help return more value to shareholders. So as you can see here, some of the new products. I'm really excited about this new upcoming MacBook Air. I believe it's selling for about $99. Looks awesome. So the MacBook Air under $1,000. I can't remember a time I've ever seen a MacBook Air that cheap, so I'll probably be interested in getting one of those. So now let's talk a little bit more about the fundamental side of the stock, and then I'll go into some technical analysis to give you guys whether I think it's a good buy or not. So let's do a quick rundown of Apple stock. It's currently trading at around $2 trillion market cap, price earnings ratio of 35, and just under dividend yield of 1%. These are some really important numbers because most of the stocks I cover on this channel do not pay a dividend. So when I come across a dividend stock, I want to give you guys those extra fundamental numbers because this really changes your perception of your investment. So me personally, I invest in Apple, and actually my retirement account, I invest in my IRA. And the reason I invest in my IRA is because I realize that a stock like Apple that pays a dividend probably won't grow as fast because they're taking a lot of the profits and sending them back to shareholders. But I am currently 34 years old, and I'm set due to take distributions from my IRA when I'm 59 and a half. So I've got another 25 years, in the future, God willing, until I'll have to touch that money. So that's one of the reasons why I own Apple stock and then IRA. But I want to give you guys a little bit of information more on what Apple's been doing as of late. So one of the greatest tools I like to use, I hope you guys are checking this out, is trailing returns. So what are trailing returns? Well, everyone talks about year-to-date returns and one-year returns, but I think it's important when you're looking at a company, you want to look at what they're doing over the long run, because you're really going to make the most money in the stock market, not after 6 months, but after 2 years, 5 years, 10 years. Those are when the fortunes are made. If you look at Warren Buffett made the majority of his money after 60. And you're going to see that for a lot of people in the future. Money compounds. So you want to see what Apple stock is doing over a longer time period. So over the last 5 years, it's done 33% compound annual growth rate over over the last 5 years, over the last 10 years, 27%, and last year, 15 years, 30%. So traditionally, for you guys out there that are familiar with Warren Buffett and value investing, Benjamin Graham, there's a really great book out there. You can check it out. It's called Intelligent Investor. It basically says that if you're doing like 20%, that's really good. So anytime a stock is returning 20% or more, in this case, Apple's done 30%, that's phenomenal. And the fact that people love their products and things like that, and they're always working on ways to improve margins. They did a great thing by making their own chip. They did even more things to improve the margins, where they reduced the packaging costs by shipping some of their products, their iPhones, without a charger. So they're always doing things to improve margins, and that's going to help the company generate more cash and return more cash to shareholders. So now I want to talk a little bit about returning cash to shareholders. So this is a really great site I like to use, Seeking Alpha. I actually was writing here on it recently, but actually I believe one of the senior editors in Seeking Alpha, he actually passed away. So I haven't been writing on this site as much. I've been focusing most of my time providing you guys with awesome YouTube videos, but I really like Seeking Alpha, and they have this tab. So if you go to you type in Apple and Seeking Alpha, and you go to dividends and dividend growth, this gives you guys a ballpark view of what the dividend is doing. So as you can see here, Apple has a 5-year dividend growth rate of 10%. So obviously we would like to see dividends growing at around 20% or more per year, but 10% is solid as well, and there's been 9 years of dividend growth. So if you take a look at this chart, as you can see here, Apple's been able to slowly increase their dividends. So at a 10% dividend growth rate, for some of you guys out there, I know a lot of you guys watching my channel are under 40 or perhaps under 50, so you still have at least a decade or two or even more until retirement. And even for some of you guys who are going to retire early, you still have a few years in the future until you're going to retire. So if you buy the stock now, those dividends are going to accumulate, and you're going to have a much bigger dividend payout when you finally hit retirement or when you decide to stop working. So that's the power of dividend investing. Like if you had bought Apple stock in 2013, the dividend was only 42 cents. Now the dividend is almost double in just 7 years. So you're doubling the amount of passive income that's coming in. And this is one of the nice things about Apple stock. It's something that people don't talk about, but stocks with rising dividends outperform all other stocks, period. So when people are buying Apple and they're worried about the short-term fluctuations, that's not what you should be worried about. You should be trying to lock in as many shares as possible and holding those shares over the long term and getting those dividend checks. Now I know what you're saying. Oh, maybe let's say if you have 100 shares of Apple stock, you're only earning, and it's an 80-cent dividend, you're only getting around $80 a year in income. So that doesn't sound like a lot of money, but remember now the stock is already doing around 30% a year over the last 15 years. So you're going to get those capital gains pretty much, not guaranteed, but people like Apple's products. I wouldn't worry too much about it. Their margins are constantly improving. They've done cost-cutting measures to be more environmental friendly. That's going to improve margins. They're obviously making their own chips. That's going to improve margins. And the dividend's going to increase. So that $80 a year dividend could turn into $200, $300, $400. And that's assuming you don't add any additional shares, right? So let's say you start adding additional shares to your position, that dividend can grow substantially and can really help supplement your income when you decide to retire. Now, you shouldn't put all of your money in Apple stock, but you should understand that it's definitely a nice place to park your funds. And for any of you guys that are kind of worried about Apple in the short term, I'm going to give you guys a little bit of tech. Okay, so a lot of tech stocks have kind of rebounded from the previous dip that we had basically after the whole election thing. After elections, a lot of people dumped tech stocks and moved into more, stocks that have been beaten down like REITs and things like that, looking for dividends. Well, the good thing about Apple is you're getting that dividend, and Apple is going to do as much as it takes to increase that dividend over time. So what I'm looking at right now, I think Apple is definitely had a lot of resistance at $135. That is post split price, so there was a 4-to-1 stock split. But Apple has been a stock where if you take a look at the last 5-year chart, Apple has been a stock where every time that it's dipped down, it's recovered and went higher. So as you can see here, we have a dip and then a recovery, and then we have a dip and then a recovery. So, based on past performance, I know you can't look at the past, but Apple is probably one of the strongest, if not the strongest company in the entire world. you have to assume that as they continue to innovate, as they continue to produce products, they're going to make more money. And they have so many amazing products now at different price points that they're really going to steal a lot of market share from Windows and Android users. I think having that cheaper iPhone SE price, like at $400, will take a lot of Android users, and $1,000 MacBook Air laptop makes it, you know, looking at the price point, it's $1,000, but it's only $999. A lot of people are going to, like me, are definitely going to jump on it. So they're going to have a pretty nice quarter. The holiday season's coming up. Now's a great time to get into Apple stock before it zooms much higher. And remember, with that dividend, it's going to provide a bit of safety, because a lot of people like me don't plan on selling Apple stock until retirement. So you don't have to worry about it crashing like Tesla or Zoom or something like that. So I hope this video gives you guys a little bit more clarity on Apple. Overall, phenomenal company. And if I would say, if you're going to hold one stock in your portfolio, especially for retirement, I say if you just use Apple, you're going to have a pretty nice portfolio. So that's it. Until next time, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you enjoy my content, please smash the subscribe button for more videos on Apple and other stocks. So that's until next time, guys. Take care.